Hello, hello, everyone. I'm your host, Andrea Giraldo. Welcome to Meetings of the Minds, brought to you by the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in partnership with BronxNet. This show was created in direct response to the COVID-19 pandemic as a way to highlight the work of our members and partners, as well as to understand the resources they have to help our community in those difficult times. Today's guest formerly served as the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer at the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, MTA, and is currently serving as the first New York City's Chief Diversity Officer for the Mayor's Office, who advocates for minority and women businesses and enterprises and has been instrumental in creating new programs that have led to more than $20 billion in payments to New York State and City minority-owned businesses and MTA certified WBEs. He joins us to speak about the programs and projects that he is working on to support New York City businesses in 2024. Please welcome to the show, Michael Garner. Hello, Michael.
Hi,
welcome.
how are you? And thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So we'll get right into it, Michael. Welcome to the program, of course. I'd like for people to get a grasp on how you got your career started in civil service.
First of all, when I graduated from college, I accepted a position at NYCHA in procurement. And so I spent 9 years at NYCHA. Leaving there as a senior buyer, and then I was asked to come over to the School Construction Authority, and in those days they were responsible for building and rehabbing all the schools in the city of New York, and they had a mandate to build 100 new schools, and they had a $13.9 billion budget. And after spending 14 years there, we broke a lot of records with awarding contracts to New York City certified MWBE firms. And then I got the call to join the MTA as the MTA's first Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. And so I spent 14 years there where we were responsible for paying $17.3 billion to minority women-owned firms at the MTA. And then I got the call to join the Adams administration. And so I am New York City's first Chief Business Diversity Officer since the year 1625, when the city of New York was incorporated.
Wow, amazing. And your career has been just perfect for leading up to where you are today.
Absolutely.
Between NYCHA and the School of Construction Authority, by far, and MTA, of course.
Yes. Yes. And so it was ironic because Mayor Adams told me that everything that I had done in my career has led to this moment.
Exactly. That's fantastic. Can you speak more about that $20 billion paid to both New York City and New York State certified?
Yes.
WBEs, MWBEs?
Yes. So if you factor in my teams and I, both at the School Construction Authority and the MTA, that number increased to $20 billion. And if you factor in the $6.3 billion that we awarded last year out of City Hall, that number is $26.3 billion. So that number keeps growing. And we're focusing on solutions. We're not blinded by problems, we focus on solution. How is it that we can create programming, change state laws in order to be more inclusive in our contract spend? So that's where we are right now. We understand that access to contracts creates jobs in those communities who have historically been shut out. It affords the business owners home ownership opportunities, and it affords their respective families better education options and better healthcare opportunities.
Yeah, it's definitely a win-win for the community
Absolutely.
As a whole.
Absolutely.
Now, and also interesting is access to that, but then there's also access to capital.
Yes. Yes.
So how does that work with someone who's trying to access any contract?
So both at the School Construction Authority and at the MTA, and soon to be at the City of New York, we will retain the services of a banking institution that will award, once a contractor or a business win an award, we will then have a banking institution there to issue loans up to $900,000 per contract. And so that business now have access to capital because you can't grow unless you have access to capital.
Yeah. And unless you can get the contract as well.
Absolutely. So it's
Amazing.
the contract first and then access to capital. We have transformed MWBE. It's like the old baseball movie, Field of Dreams. You built it and they'll come.
And they all come.
They will come.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Are there any requirements on the end of the business owners to be able to access those contracts or that funding for the contracts?
They would need to have a contract in hand,
Oh,
and then their credit applications will be scored, and their FICO score will not be the main focus because we now want to ensure that businesses now have access to capital.
yeah.
And so we hire the right banking institution with the right mindset in order to look beyond the FICO score.
Do they have to be rejected by a bank?
No.
Or just have a cap on assets or on revenue?
So we have done an incredible job at the SCA and at the MTA and soon to be at the City of New York, where a firm who applies for a loan, they will be mandated to open a checking account with that banking institution. And when they submit their invoices, they will then have 48 hours in order to take off their proceeds and then issue the proceeds to the contractor or the other firm. And so we are mitigating the bank's exposure.
Oh, very interesting. It's fascinating. So you have been a consistent advocate for minority and women-owned businesses going back to your days with the MTA. How have you continued this mission of creating a more inclusive and diverse business environment, serving in your new role as Chief Business Diversity Officer?
So I've been not only an advocate, but a practitioner. And so going to an organization, two complicated organizations like the School Construction Authority and the MTA, where the MTA is a $1 trillion organization with one of the most important mandates in this region. If you stop or if you shut the MTA down, the whole region is paralyzed.
Yes.
And we did shut it down with response to Hurricane Sandy and COVID-19, where we shut down the subway systems every day from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. when we disinfected the subway trains. And so the whole region was paralyzed. And if we created operating efficiencies in those two complicated organizations, because you can't build a school late. Every August 1st, schools are built, the keys are turned over to the principal on August 1st, and they assume their senior staff, and they build up until they open school in September. So if the school is late, it's first page news. And so we basically created an environment where we were able to finish our project safely, timely, on budget, and inclusive of our MWBE goals, because we put the MWBE goals into the critical path.
Okay. So it's already part of the requirement.
Part of the contract.
Of the project
Of the
itself.
contract. And the MWBE goals embedded in each contracts are part of the terms and conditions of the contract.
Is there any specific percentage of that contract that is assured for these MWBEs?
Every contract that's awarded where there is an availability, 30% or not less than 30% of that contract will be subcontracted out to city certified or state certified MWBE firms. So 1/3 of that contract.
That's quite the number.
Yes, it is.
Excellent, excellent. Now, when you approach the MWBEs for all these projects that are going on, what are the top industries that you feel have a void, and or that you feel that there's just so many opportunities that, please come forward?
Well, we are looking at every industry. If you look at the annual budgets that we spend, the city of New York buys $41.1 billion in goods and services every year, 41.1 billion. Construction, information, technology, architecture and engineering, goods, supplies, real estate, services. So we are looking at the whole entire spectrum of all industries to make sure that every industry, transportation, every industry, there's MWBE inclusion.
But is there any industry that stands out to you the most, that you see over and over there are many opportunities?
Well, certainly the biggest driver of MWBE spend is actually construction. So construction is the big driver.
Okay.
But then there's associated services in construction, like architecture and engineering.
Yes.
There's information technology. There's legal services. So we are looking for
there are
inclusion.
legal services as well.
Yes.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
we've spent about $35 million in legal services since the mayor's first day in office in January of 2022. And so we are now looking to focus on bringing in more ethnic minority-owned law firms so we can issue them assignments.
Interesting. And under construction, when you say construction, do you refer to like everything, electricians, plumbers,
The full gamut.
GCs, the whole
The
thing?
whole entire gamut.
Wow.
And we talked previously about the construction mentor program that we changed state laws both at the City of New York and at the MTA.
Yes, so please elaborate on that. We were talking about that before we started the show, which I found fascinating.
Yes. So when you talk about two of the most complicated construction organizations in the country, the School Construction Authority and the MTA, we were able to pass a state law at the MTA to replicate the success that we had at the School Construction Authority by awarding prime construction contracts to MWBE contractors who historically have had only the opportunity to work as a subcontractor. We know that you develop a more broader pool of MWBE contractors on prime contract awards and not on subcontract awards. Because on a prime contract award, those contractors have the ability, they are in control of their own destiny.
Yes.
And so in addition to changing state laws, both at the city and at the MTA, we have also created a mandatory 18-week training course for these contractors to become better business people.
Who runs it?
Training course. The city
The city
will
run
employ
it. Okay.
trainers who will come in and teach contractors how to become better contractors, but also better business people.
Yeah. Excellent.
And
I
so we are.
Will they get a certification or vetted to move on to something else?
They will be mandated in order to do business in this
okay.
construction mentoring program,
Yes.
which is a specialized set-aside program that they will bid on contracts only against other mentees. And so a part of that is ensuring that they get training on how to finish projects safely, timely, and on budget, and then become better business people. Because I know that a construction person may be great at what they do as far as finishing their projects, but if their back office support is not what it should be, if they are not submitting their invoices on a timely basis, it's only going to be a short period of time before they become insolvent.
Yes, yes, I agree with you 100%, because you see that with many entrepreneurs, and I'm not going to say the vast majority, but many entrepreneurs who are extremely skilled in their craft, but that does not necessarily translate to business management of that enterprise that they're running.
Absolutely. And if you're not building up your internal infrastructure, when you're ascertaining more contracts, if you're not built up in order to absorb those contracts, then you're not going to be a very viable business.
Exactly. And be able to support it in the
Absolutely.
long term.
Yes.
Excellent. I love it. And how can we connect the dots to the city's MWBE certification by SBS, Small
Yes.
Business Services? Is there any connection there from your office to SBS with
Yes.
certification?
Certainly. So any firm that we meet who are not certified by the city, they have the ability to either call us, send us an email. We will refer them over to SBS. SBS has specialized staff that will assist those firms in getting certified. Now, once an application is complete, once that application has been submitted, SBS has a mandate of reviewing the application, making a certification decision in 45 days.
So would this be a prerequisite for the program you were talking about before?
Well, on the city soon-to-be construction mentoring program,
Yes.
all firms will need to be pre-qualified.
Yeah.
We are looking for contractors who have been in business for at least 1 year, showing tax returns with no long history of unsatisfactory projects and no tax liens or judgments that are not being addressed.
Any revenue minimum, maximum?
Yes, so firms should not have more revenue than in excess of $5 million annually.
Okay.
So this is like a small business type
Yeah.
of program.
Yeah. And any minimum, if that's the max, or
Well, they would need to show tax returns.
yes.
Right.
Okay. Okay. And then I guess go through the vetting process and
Yes.
be approved and whatnot. Excellent. This is so fantastic. So many things. And are there any other new programs or initiatives that you're tapping into for the MWBEs here in the city?
Yes, so for the first time of any mayor, Mayor Eric Adams was responsible for going to Albany and getting all of his MWBE bills passed in one session. And so now the exciting part starts in
Can you share what those
Absolutely.
bills are?
Absolutely. Transforming bills into state laws in the programming.
Okay.
And we just talked about the citywide construction mentoring program. That was one bill that was passed. Second bill that was passed is called OSIP, Owners Controlled Insurance Program. We know and we understand that smaller contractors, in addition to having problems in accessing capital, they also have issues in accessing insurance. And so we are getting ready to roll out a OSIP program, Owners Controlled Insurance Program, where the city is going to wrap up all of their contractors, both the prime contractors and the subcontractors, under an umbrella of cost-effective construction insurance. Third bill that was passed is called the City of New York's. We have the ability now to go into the marketplace, solicit 3 or 4 prices only from MWB firms, and make the award right there on the spot, as long as that pricing is aligned with various pricing, and make the award right there on the spot up to $1.5 million per contract.
Wow. If you could share what it used to be before that cap.
It was $40,000.
It was,
before.
I know.
It was $40,000.
So now it's $1.5
before.
million.
1.5 million, and we matched the MTA's 1.5 million.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So these are some of the exciting programs that Mayor Eric Adams has been responsible for getting approved up in Albany by changing state laws to make sure that the 45 agencies now have the ability to award contracts cost effectively, because this taxpayers' money is being spent, but also in an inclusive manner.
Now, do you see in that inclusive manner, do you see the majority of these firms being male-owned or women-owned? Is because, you know, in the past there used to be like the male-dominated world in construction, for example,
Right.
or the food industry. Have you seen any changes in that throughout the years from when you began your career to today?
Certainly. So we are focusing on ensuring that those 45 agencies have the ability to award contracts in an inclusive manner. We're focusing on the disparity within the disparity. Why is it that Black and Hispanic businesses historically cannot get contracts?
Yeah.
And so we're focusing on that. So in 14 months, we're starting to see a spike in contract awards to both Black and Hispanic-owned businesses for the first time in history.
But not pertaining to hub zones or things like that.
No,
Okay.
we're focusing on what barriers there are, coming up with programming in order to eradicate those barriers, including changing state laws.
Wow, that's amazing. How many laws were there? I'm curious now, because you mentioned a handful that will provide direct impact
Absolutely.
to communities at
Right.
large.
Yes. Well, it's going to create jobs in those communities.
Yes.
Job creation, access to capital, access to surety bonding, and access to contracting. And so we are also debundling larger projects. And so, as I indicated previously, I mean, satisfying the 30% MWBE subcontracting goals is a great business for some. But if you really want to have a larger impact, you will debundle larger projects, recruit MWB firms to bid on via an RFP process or hard bid process as primes, as a prime contractor. And once you ascertain a prime contract, you are now in control of your own destiny.
Amazing. Can you explain to the audience the difference of being prime and sub, please?
A prime business or prime contractor has the ability to respond to a RFP or a hard bid as a prime business, meaning that that contract will be awarded directly to you. A subcontractor, you will work for a prime contractor. And so the contract will be awarded to a prime contract, and then 30% of that prime contract will be subcontracted out. And so you will be one of the various subcontractors.
So that's the difference between a sub and a prime, which I think it's important for the audience to understand. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Very well. So where do you see MWBEs in the next 5 years as far as construction, hospitality, food service industry or food industry as a whole? Are there any concerns, perhaps?
Well, you know, Mayor Adams has a simple mandate. His mandate is by the year 2026, that the city of New York—
2 years.
2 years. That the city of New York will not award less than $25 billion to minority women-owned firms. Okay. That number increases to $60 billion by the year 2030. And if last year was any indication of what we've done, we awarded $6.3 billion last year. And so we are on target to exceed that $6.3 billion from last year, this year, which ends on June 30th. There is no other government entity in the nation or in the private sector that has awarded $6.3 billion in contracts in 1 year to M&WBE firms. Not one.
Amazing. Those are huge numbers, by the way.
And if you think about this city that we live in is the most diverse city in the world.
By far, I agree.
Out of all of the responsibilities that Mayor Adams has, he has ingrained MWBE, has prioritized it, and put the MWBE program in that critical path. Everything that he said he was going to do on the campaign trail, he has done and even more.
Amazing, amazing. And thank you to you. I mean, all the work that you do with the knowledge that you have from all the years building up. But before you go, I'd like to know if you have any parting words of advice for someone who is, watching the show right now, who would like to get into diverse business field, procurement, or just follow that civil service career. If you have any advice for them.
I would say that the environment is changing. The environment is more conducive to the growth and development of our certified MWB firms. I would say that the amount of contracts that we have in this region, City of New York, the State of New York, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey at the various airports, DASNY, the volume is here.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would stress and give you some advice. Don't quit before your miracle. Don't quit before your miracle.
So what is your miracle? What is the moment you're most proud of so far in your career?
Having the ability to change government, to change the way that government does business in order to be more inclusive, and not having government exclude various groups because that environment is not conducive to those MWBEs' growth and inclusion and development.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Michael. It's been so wonderful to hear about everything you have shared today. Where can our viewers go to learn more about your initiatives? Any website you can share with them?
On the website, but also send me an email.
Okay.
And that's mgarner@cityhall.nyc.gov. We would like to hear from you, and we would like to refer you to information. And hopefully next year this time, when I see you, I will tell you, see, I told you so. You
can't wait.
didn't quit before your miracle.
Yeah, excellent. And lastly, before I forget, any events that you have coming up that people that are interested in all of this could go to?
Yes, so in September, we will have the City of New York's annual MWBE Summit, where all of our agencies will be at the Barclays Center.
Oh,
And also, we are taking the MWBE programs to each one of the boroughs. And so we've already been to the Bronx, standing room only. We've been to Queens. We're doing a Manhattan one in July. We're going to Staten Island in October. And we will be in Brooklyn at the annual MWBE conference. So stay tuned.
and where can they follow anywhere on a website these events, or where?
Yes, I would go to SBS's website.
Oh, SBS.
Yes.
Okay, so that's Small Business Services for the City of New York, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. And your email last time?
My email address, once again, is mgarner@cityhall, all one word, .nyc.gov.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Michael.
Great, thank you.
Again, mgarner@cityhall.nyc.gov. And that is it for today with our guest, Michael Garner. And visit their social media on LinkedIn. You can follow him at Michael J. Gardner. Again, his email, mgarner@cityhall.nyc.gov. And as he said, visit the SBS website, Small Business Services. But unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today. I want to thank again our guest, Michael Garner, for joining us, and our viewers for tuning in and checking us out. Keep following BronxNet TV for continued coverage. If you are not a member of the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, you can visit us at www.hispanicchamber.nyc. Again, that is www.hispanicchamber.nyc. You can also engage with us on LinkedIn at New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, all spelled out. And I'll see you next time for another episode of Meetings of the Minds in partnership with BronxNet. See you next time. Ciao, ciao.